Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest is Celina Reitberger, the Executive Director of NAN Legal Services. And Celina, we were just talking about this issue of folks coming down, charged with an offense, and ending up in Kenora all alone without really any evidence or knowledge of what's actually going on. Tell me more.
They have, in many cases with youth, they've never been convicted of a crime, but if they are let out on bail, they may have, breaches that then end up with charges, and then before we know it, they have a criminal record. And in fact, they may never be found guilty of the substantive offense, but they have been sucked into this vortex of the criminal justice system. So I'm very happy with what the Attorney General has announced today, because this means that there's going to be bail supervision programs in the communities that will help keep the youth out of the criminal justice system. And it's very important, very important. Having a criminal record can be a life sentence.
And we hear in the news that the proportion of Indigenous people in our jails is way beyond, their share of the population. So this is one of those areas that this can happen, that people, they're not even really criminals, but they get caught up in this system and away from their own homes. That
yes, it is. It's a very destructive thing that's happening. So we're hoping that there is better bail outcomes, but more importantly, and through the Indigenous Justice Division of the Ministry of the Attorney General, more funds are being made available for reinvigorating Indigenous justice systems. So you alluded to Sandy Lake, who's going on the second year of their system, which involves sitting in a circle with chief and council and elders. And they're starting small and dealing with cases that are not wouldn't even go to our diversion system, and they're saying, okay, let's talk about what you've done and how it affects the community. And I sat in on one of those circles, and it's very powerful because people don't feel that they're being judged. They are made to feel that they have ownership in their own community, and they're asked, okay, what can you do to make this better, to make this a stronger community? And people are very receptive to that kind of an approach.
So walk me through it a little bit. So in order for a person to get to that circle, were they already charged by a policeman?
No,
or no?
Not in this particular case,
okay,
because they are working on pre-charge a situation. So there are lesser offenses that may or may not even result in an actual charge, but by doing it pre-charge, it's saving a lot of pressure on the system.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not charged, but if they were to go before this community council and it wasn't resolved, then there is a chance that they could still be charged.
So is there some agreement between the community and the police that if it's not a serious offense, don't charge them right away, send them into this process?
They have to have the cooperation of the police, for sure.
And what's the basis or the history of this type of community justice?
Well, that's a very good question. And in fact, it's always been in existence. Our ancestors were always able to deal with the issues in the community. Frequently, it was the elders who would have the power to deal with, people who were upsetting the tranquility of the community. One of our managers, restorative justice managers, Vernon Morris, remembers in his own youth how when everyone came in off the trap lines, they would have these circle meetings and they would talk about issues that affected the community. And if there was someone who was causing disruption, they might be sat in the center of the circle and the discussion would go on until a resolution was achieved. And in fact, Muskrat Dam is starting to bring back their indigenous system. And they were the last community in NAN that allowed the courts to come in. And so it's almost fitting that they are leading the this new movement to reinvigorating the justice systems that already exist, the kernel of which is in each and every one of these communities.
And when you talk about the circle, I'm put to mind with our Thunder Bay Injured Workers group. Many years ago, we were trying to chart a course forward for our group, and one of our members, a Métis fellow, said, let's use the circle. Well, what's that? Well, and we just took turns and we went around and spoke, and it was like so different than a regular meeting, because after 2 times around the circle, we were all in agreement and said, hey, we know what we're doing, rather than your idea is not as good as my idea or whatever. Is that the same?
Yes, absolutely.
The same process?
Absolutely. It's very powerful because everybody is on the same level. We're all equal. If the circle's set up right, you can see everybody else, everybody can see you. And one of the key rules is that we don't talk over one another. So sometimes we'll use a rock, sometimes we'll use a talking stick, but we go around and everybody knows they have their chance to speak, or not, if they choose, and everyone feels that they've been heard. So it is a very basic but powerful process.
So I'm really attracted to the practice, and I'm kind of going, can we integrate this into our mainstream justice system, I wonder?
Well, it's already happening. I mean, there was a group who were doing diversions at the Friendship Center, but they were non-Aboriginal, and they were taking clients who were non-Aboriginal. But I mean, sure, absolutely, it's there for the taking.
And so, where are we at in terms of introducing this practice into, say, northern communities? I'm kind of going, if we can keep people at home, deal with issues there, all these other technical pieces of flying them into communities where they've got no family and friends could be avoided.
Yes. Well, we've been doing restorative justice programming at NAN Legal for almost 20 years. And we have built up a lot of expertise. We have, 8 restorative justice workers. We serve most of the communities. And now we are moving towards youth. We have youth integration workers who've been doing prevention work with the youth, and now they are moving towards doing circles as well. So that has increased the number of people we have who are capable of doing circles, and that means that more and more people will have the benefit of this system. In addition, we have just received funding to have a special worker who is going to service the James Bay coast, and this worker is going to be dealing with more serious cases of historic sexual abuse and domestic cases. So it takes a special, knowledge and experience, and so we have a very experienced worker who's going to be doing that. And we're very excited about that because, as you know, there has been a very strong link between youth suicides and sexual abuse.
We're going to find out a little bit more about that really important issue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.